So this is how I remember the origin story for Juggernaut. Brian, he's my partner, but like a brother, and Roger's my actual real blood brother. Um, so basically, they helped start this store called AOK Official, and they were supposed to become partners at some point and whatnot. Um, but things didn't quite work out the way they were supposed to. And basically, I was gonna go to pharmacy school. Well, actually, I went to pharmacy school, UNC Chapel Hill, and I remember my brother Roger saying, "Hey, so basically, like I was like the math guy. You know, they're more like on the creative, but like I feel like I have a balance of both. But anyways, they were like, we want to do this, but we don't know how. And then I was like, well, shit, I'm confident in myself. Like I know how to figure it out. You know, so I just pretty much left school. Like told my mom, like, yo, fuck this. Like 4 years of pharmacy school and to be in debt. And then I came back, and then these guys were like, "Oh, let's start the store." And I don't know if they were serious, but they were, because like they're like, "Hey, can you look for spots?" And then so like the mindset for me was, who's our audience, who's our customer base. And I told these guys like we should find something that's central to like other universities or schools or high schools. I told them that the high school student is our ideal customer because they have expendable income and they want to be fresh, because like that's what you do in high school, you know. College is cool too because you're freshman year, sophomore year, you want to be fresh. So we looked. As I was on Craigslist and I was looking up locations. Rogers Park was Balayola University. I found a spot, but it seemed too far up north. And then I was looking on Craigslist again, and I found a spot downtown where we're at, and on Dearborn. And the guy was trying to get out of his lease. So this was 2007. 2007. And he was like, "Man, I'll give you like the remaining of my lease. It's super cheap." So it was like around the time of the depression or recession, I guess. And he gave us a super cool deal. And I was like, "Dad, we could make the rent. You know, we'll figure it out." And my backup plan was a certified farm tech. So I was working at the Target Pharmacy as a part-time farm tech to supplement my income. Um, and then we signed the lease and opened up the shop. And so I set up like pretty much how the day-to-day should work. It's just going off like my education, what I've learned in the past, like the things that made sense. Common sense is very important. I had a job at Macy's, Marshall Fields back in the day, Macy's. I worked at Macy's too, so I learned how like I took from my experiences, like, oh, this is how they did it there, so this makes sense. This is how we should do it here, you know. Or like, oh, where do you get a point of sale? Like, well, you just Google point of sale. Like, how do you know what I'm saying? There's a million things. Everything is easy now. Before it was a little harder, but yeah. So like, pretty much that's how it started. Like, they wanted to start the shop, and they asked me to be part of it, and yeah. So I wasn't the one that said, "Oh, let's start it." It was like said Roger and Brian. So they were we're all founders, but it was their idea. In these 16 years of business, the biggest thing I've learned, the biggest lesson I've learned with Juggernaut is having the right team players to be able to execute and trust. In order for you to succeed, you have to have a good team, right? And then there's weaknesses that you may not have, but a teammate might have. So the one thing that the coach used to always say is like, you're only strong as your weakest link. So when you're forming a team, you gotta just make sure that like you trust that they will be able to do what they're supposed to do, because that's what football was like. I trust that you're gonna make this block if I'm a running back, so because I'm coming through your hole, and then after that is me, you know. Um, so like the difficulties is just like everybody being on the same page, because it's when you're dealing more than one person. Everybody has their own ideas, but how do you get everybody to work together? And that's just leadership, and that's just like explaining and making people understand that like what we're working towards an objective, and this is the objective. And like the more I learn, the more I'm like, well, I'm wasting too much time explaining this to you, and you don't see what I'm trying to do. So like the objective, I'm gonna move forward by myself if I have to. And then that's why I started doing different like businesses. Biggest thing with business is you got to be able to adjust. So football terms audible. Nothing's always gonna go the right way. You can't dwell on the. I play defense, so the biggest thing you have to do is have a short-term memory. If you get burned on a play, you can't dwell and mope about it. You got to come and fix it. Like learn from your. The biggest thing I learned was, okay, I acknowledged this fucked up. This didn't go the way I was supposed to go. Now, how do I fix it? How do I move forward? How do I learn from it? There's always gonna be issues. There's always things that's not gonna go your way, and you just gotta be able to like pivot and move on and not dwell. And then, yeah, that's like, I mean, I don't have, I don't dwell on shit. I don't mope on stuff. Like things don't bother me. Like, oh, this is what it is. This is what it is. I'm gonna figure it out. And if it doesn't work, I'm gonna figure out some other way. It's just about survival. Like the biggest example I could give you is the last thing we just did was we did Complex Con in LA, and one of our guys was supposed to do a build out for us. So he was driving the build out for the booth, and basically he didn't come through. So literally, like we had a day before to build out this booth. You know, he gave me some pointers, he gave me some advice, and like I could have been pissed off and yelled at him, like, you know, you fucked us, like, but what's that gonna do? It's just gonna piss him off, and then it's yeah, I'm mad, but I don't at this point I don't care. Like me being mad does nothing to solve this. So how do I fix this? So I was like, yeah, you fucked us, but like now what? He's like, ah, man, like here, you could do this. Go to Home Depot, set this up. So I went, set up, and we did the booth. I worked a little harder, but it's cool. It's part of the job. I stayed up till midnight. I was tired for the whole weekend. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Like this is life. This is how it goes. You can't like the best advice I give anybody is just keep it moving. You got your ass beat, cool. How do you not get your ass beat next time? Does that mean I gotta go to the gym more? Cool. You go to the gym more. You know, the biggest failure I've ever had was like getting into a fight and losing, and then realizing I don't want to feel that way ever again. So that's why I got into sports. That's why I got into lifting, and it's like feeling confident. But I'm not looking for a fight. But like the thing that I tell people that I've realized with people is there's people that get beat up and they crawl into a cave and they don't want to come out and be a part of life or be a part of society because it made them feel a type of way. So now they're scared their whole life. There's people out there that get beat up and they face that fear and they understand what happened and they understand that they don't want to feel like that. So how do we fix that? So I was the latter. I was the person that I didn't like it. So it's never going to happen again. If I could do something about it, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Having a proper mindset, honestly, it just comes with experience. Like I was hanging around people I shouldn't be hanging around with. I saw the shady shit they did, like the shady shit, the mental games that they played on people, the psychology of certain people. And then like I learned from the sports aspect of like the coach, you know, you got your ass kicked, now get the fuck up. Like either like do something about it or leave. And it's like what another biggest thing that I've learned is a sink or swim mindset. Uh, you know, like, are you a survivor? So if you jump in the pool, like, are you gonna swim? Or are you just gonna sink? So I like to think I'm a survivor. I may not be the best swimmer, but I'm gonna figure out how to, you know, get out the pool if I need to get out the pool, or how to avoid the pool if I know that I can't swim that pool, you know. So I think it just came from sports and being around people I shouldn't be around, you know. But sports is like huge. Like I was saying earlier, the education, I feel like my culture, the Mexican culture, like the streets culture, the sports culture, and the education system, like going to school, learning how to learning how to teach myself. I feel like I can learn anything and do anything. One of the most memorable moments at Juggernaut is I have two actually. When we did the Chance the Rapper's first sold out show for 10 day, and you know that was kind of cool experience because we got to put it together. I have a whole story about it, but basically, like, long story short, Mr. Bennett came into the shop, and Roger was at the front, and he was like, "You guys should book my son Chance." And then Roger was like, "Oh well, you know, talk to Manny. He's in the back." So I was tagging some merch, and he comes up, and he's like, "Your brother said to talk to you." I was like, "Oh, okay. What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, you guys do shows. I heard you guys do a lot of hip hop shows." I was like, "Yeah, we do shows here, parties, whatever." So he's like, "I want you guys to book my son." And I was like, "Well, how much? Who's your son?" He's like, "Chance." I'm like, "Oh yeah, he's super dope. We fuck with him. We believe in him. I think he's gonna be like a superstar." And I was like, "How much you want for him to perform?" He's like, "I don't know, like $300-400." And then I was like, that's cool. Like, you know, he's up and coming. And I was like, you know what? I'll do something better. How about this? Why don't we just throw a show for his 10 day, because he was working on 10 day, and we'll take care of everything, costs, we'll find booking and blah blah. And then after that we set up the show, and it was a success. Like, I reached out to Lincoln Hall. We Brian did design, Roger helped with the marketing, and then yeah, it went well, it went dope. And then we knew, like, we did an all ages show, and that was dope because we saw it sell out. We saw um, how he had the support of the city. And then we met Taylor, which Taylor's awesome, by the way, also, and he helped. Taylor was like a big help too, because with the high schools, and it's just like building the relationships. That's one thing I like. I appreciate at Juggernaut is the relationships I got to build, the people I got to meet. Normally, I would never meet any of these people if you had a 9 to 5. If you weren't in a creative field. But that was very more memorable because we got to do that show for him. But people don't know that because we don't really, say it. And then the other memorable moment, I think, is when Chance did acid rap, and we did it at the store for his listening. Well, it was an in-store meet and greet, and the line was wrapped around the block. The cops showed up, and it was just like pretty cool to see.